Hey, everybody, good morning and welcome to our soon-to-be interview here with Russell Plaschka and Doug Biswell. We're going to talk about National Co-op Month. We're on our YouTube page, 580 WIBW YouTube page, and also on our Facebook page as well. We are in commercials right now on 580 WIBW. We'll be starting shortly here in just a bit, so you may see me going back and forth here in between looking at the monitor right now as I am, and also looking or being on the air on 580 WIBW, and we will join you shortly as we're just about ready to go on and get a lot of the information for National Co-op Month this month with Russell and Doug, and that'll be coming up shortly. So stand by, and we will be with you here in just a second.
News, markets, and interviews with those in the know. Now, your host, Greg Akagi.
Good morning, everyone. Glad to have you with us on the program this morning. National Co-op Month here in the state of Kansas and all across the United States as well. We're going to talk about the annual celebration with Russell Plaschka, who is the president and CEO of the Kansas Cooperative Council. And we're also going to be joined by Doug Biswell, who is with Jackson Farmers Co-op in Holton and their Holton office as well, and all the activities and how everything that they do as far as their cooperative is concerned, not only in the local area, but across the state of Kansas as well. That will be coming up this morning on the Ag Issues program here on 580 WIBW. But before we do that, let's get an update on the forecast. All right, and for those of you back on the stream, we're doing the weather forecast right now on 580 WIBW, and we will be set to go here shortly. As far as weather looks awfully good too, and we will keep you up to date on the weather forecast. Enjoy it, by gosh, because sometime it'll actually turn to fall-like weather. We're not experiencing fall. Well, somewhat the lows we are experiencing fall-type weather, but not the mid to upper 80s that we've seen across many areas of the state here in this past week. But a heck of a lot of harvest is taking place that needed to be done as we were starting to get a bit behind the pace. And then sometime, somewhere in this, I hate to say it'll be freezing, but we'll get freezing temperatures somewhere down the road here. And then, eventually we'll get that white stuff falling in the air, but we'll save that for down the road. It's only October 3rd, so I think the less we talk about it now, the better. So we will get going here shortly with the interview as the weather forecast just about done. And so just stand by, and we will get back to the interview here in just a second.
With an abundance of sunshine, highs in the low to mid 70s in northwest Kansas, 80s for southwest and north central Kansas, mid 80s to around 90 in south central Kansas, low to mid 80s northeast Kansas, mid to upper 80s southeast Kansas. This is the Kansas Ag Network.
All right, thank you very much for the update right now. As far as the capital city is concerned, we have a clear sky, 62 degrees at Billard Airport and 61 degrees this morning at Forbes Field. And this morning on the Ag Issues program, a pleasure to talk about National Co-op Month in the United States and also celebrated here in the state of Kansas. And we like to talk about in our yearly visit with Russell Plaschka, who is the president and CEO of the Kansas Cooperative Council, as he joins us on the program this morning. Russell, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Greg. Good to be here. Happy National Co-op Month.
Absolutely. And we've got one of your fellow co-op members on the program, Doug Biswell, who was with Jackson Farmers Co-op in Holton. Yes, you probably heard him earlier on 580 WIBW because he also works with Loan and Associates as well, providing the commentary on the markets yesterday. Doug, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Greg. Great. Thanks for letting us speak about National Co-op Month.
Yep, definitely. And Russell, this is new hat for you because you became president and CEO here in 2025 as well. But I'm sure you have had a chance to go across the state to see what the fine co-ops in Kansas are able to do and how important the cooperatives are across the state of Kansas.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So it is kind of a new job. Started January 6th with the Kansas Cooperative Council and had high and lofty goals. As Doug knows, he's one of our board members as well. So I thought, I can get across the state. I can cover all the 50 some co-ops. I think right now we have about 56, 57, what we would consider ag or farmer co-ops across the state. I thought for sure I could visit them all in 2 or 3 months, and that would be an easy task. But here we are in October, and I still have one more co-op to visit. So it's a big state, and there's a lot of agriculture across the state, and we have some great cooperatives spread clear across the state.
But just the importance of it to the small cities and how much it really contributes to the economy of not only those small cities, but overall into the state of Kansas too.
Yeah, when we look at our total economic impact on the state of Kansas or on our local rural communities, we look at our co-ops and just employment wise, they're employing roughly 4,600 to 5,000 employees across the state of Kansas through all of their different divisions. In terms of the economic impact of our communities, the co-op output, their total output over the year is over $1 billion. And so that's a lot of dollars generated through the state. And, when I think about our rural communities or any of the communities where our farmer co-ops are, you hear a lot of people talk about a circular economy. I don't think there's a greater example than our local farmer co-ops or any of the co-ops to keep that dollar local, because as we have farmers and ranchers and producers that are doing business with that local co-op, they're spending their money there locally, they're selling their grain, they're buying their feed, and that dollar, when it comes back to the farmer, that farmer typically is going to spend a good portion of that in that local community, whether that's equipment, whether that's parts, supplies, could be groceries, it could be clothing, whatever. So when people talk about that circular economy, I love to use that double circle model, even that the co-op is a great example of that.
Doug, you are one example of that with Jackson Farmers Co-op in the Holton office as well. So you know the importance of your Jackson Farmers Co-op to the city of Holton, but overall in other cities, Jackson Farmers Co-op is in too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, large impact on local economies. We're in 4 communities, north and east of Topeka, Lancaster, Effingham, Holton, and Meriden. And, a couple of those communities, we're the largest employer, and certainly, we pay taxes like everybody else. So help support the city and county tax base also, not to mention the payroll. And as Russell said, we do our best to do as much business with the local businesses in our communities also.
And probably people don't realize that tie-in as far as what you're able to do as a business, but how much you try to incorporate working with other businesses, in this case in Holton, to be able to, I won't say trickle down, that might not be the right word to say, but really integrate that co-op into the local economy.
Well, absolutely. We ask our local producers to support us. It's just the right thing to do for the co-op to support the local community. We give back. We support local 4-H, FFA chapters. We do what we can to help support, especially, the local kids that are doing livestock sales and things like that. We have a robust feed business, and, education is part of the co-op council's pillars. And we do what we can to support local communities. Absolutely.
Russell, being National Co-op Month, what are some of the main points or main things to highlight during this month as a celebration of co-ops across the nation?
Well, some of the things that we'd like to highlight is just that economic impact and that global or local, thinking locally and then expanding globally, that our co-ops, I think a lot of people forget that our local co-ops are producer owned. They are the owners, they are the members. That's, when you think about just Doug here or any of the managers across the state, all those farmers and ranchers, that's their boss. Those are a lot of bosses and a lot of owners to work with. So I think that's important to understand, that it's not just a private company with a general manager, a president, a CEO. They've got to answer to that board that are the owners and operators, the farmers and the ranchers of that community. So I think that's one of the most important things. And then just the impact on a global scale. If you think about Kansas, our local farmer co-ops still control about a little over 50% of the grain storage in the state of Kansas. So when you think about our grains heading out of the state of Kansas or being processed within the state of Kansas, that's a pretty good supply.
And probably, I'm sure many people realize, but at the same time, they probably don't, the types of co-ops that are out there that affect not only agriculture, electricity, and other things too.
I was going to say our credit unions are a type of cooperative. If you look at a CoBank, some people have heard of CoBank as a large agricultural banking institution. They're a cooperative. You might say where our main offices are is Pro Value Insurance Company out of Hutchinson, Kansas. They're a cooperatively owned insurance company. So, there's all sorts of different co-ops. We even have there's some grocery stores throughout the state of Kansas that are set up as cooperatives. They may not look exactly the same as what some of our farmer-owned co-ops look like, but they're still set up similar to that cooperative model. So co-ops are around us all the time, and I think a lot of people don't understand or don't realize that sometimes when we're walking through a door, they're doing business with a co-op.
Well, and Doug, it's working at Jackson Farmers Co-op. It's really, you take care of the farmer, the rancher that are out there, but they're not only your friends, they're your customers as well. And trying to be able to do that in the way you would like to service them, not only as a co-op, but as a business is important. Yeah,
the advantage of co-op, as Russell said, our members share in the profits of our co-op. Our board is elected. We have an annual meeting coming up here pretty quickly, and our board members are elected by the members of the co-op. So it is a true democracy. And because our board members are active members of our co-op, I answer directly to the members. It's a great business model. Yeah, and one that's worked for, and either one of you can discuss this, one that's worked for so many years to have the success that it has, and to be able to have months like this to be able to celebrate what they're able to do. Yeah, Jackson Farmers was formed in 1918. There are a few co-ops that are a little older than that. I think the oldest one in the state of Kansas was 1901. We have 30 or so in the state of Kansas co-ops that are over 100 years old. So obviously the model works. We've been around a long time. And Russell, you want to add on to that?
Oh, I think Doug hit it right on the head there. I was going to mention the oldest co-op, 1901, and there's several of them, quite a few of them that were in the '8s, '9, early teens, so there's a lot of those co-ops out there that have 100 years plus of history of business in Kansas. And I think I don't think you can find too many businesses anymore that can say, hey, we've been in business in Kansas here for over 100 years. And with this many of them in the cooperative system, it's a success story.
All right, we're going to take a quick break as we celebrate National Co-op Month, not only across the United States, but here in Kansas. Russell Plaschka, the president and CEO of the Kansas Cooperative Council, is our guest, as well as Doug Biswell with Jackson Farmers Co-op in Holton. This is Ag Issues here on 580 WIBW.
still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation.
All right, we are, for those of you on the feed, we are in a commercial break right now on 580 WIBW. And as Doug and Russell done, I'm doing the same.
I was getting a little choked up there.
Yeah.
Getting a little nostalgia.
Good thing I haven't been around since 1918.
It's the old inside baseball. You don't realize how much you flap your gums. In my case, by the time you get to Friday, and then you realize it's like, yeah, I flapped my gums a lot this week. So.
Aspirin products, NSAIDs,
Oh,
SSRIs,
man.
and blood thinners increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about planned medical or dental procedures.
So we will be back to the program here in just a bit.
Good morning, everyone. This is John Fly.
And this is, you hear this on the stream. This is kind of what we do in between when we're going on commercials, or we're doing interview via StreamYard like this too. As is the case when you're live on the radio, you try not to say anything bad, even on a live stream like this too. There are days that maybe you want to, but then again, it's kind of like it's like and
you have a mute button, don't you?
Yes. I have a mute button. I have a cough button, and sometimes both are needed.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're getting near our last commercials.
When you step into the Good Feet store for a free personalized fitting and test walk, you can feel the difference almost instantly.
Also, a little inside baseball. It's a commercial that's running right now on 580 is one that I voiced, and when you're one that you don't exactly like how your voice sounded, you've never liked.
Yeah, I heard myself come on at 5:53 this morning and immediately turned the radio off.
You didn't want to hear your information you had to give?
No, I already knew what I said.
All right, stand by. We'll be set to go here shortly.
Or just stop by the Good Feet store at 21st and Wanamaker near Target. This is Ag Issues with Greg Akagi.
We're back on the Ag Issues program this morning here on 580 WIBW. It is National Co-op Month, and we're celebrating it here in the state of Kansas. Doug Biswell with Jackson Farmers Co-op in Holton is joining us, as well as Russell Plaschka, who is the president and CEO of the Kansas Cooperative Council. Well, you talked about, and Doug, I'll start with you, talked about the business model and how successful it has been. 2025 has been quite the year, Doug, as far as the ag economy is concerned, and now we're in a government shutdown as well. So I'm sure it's been interesting, not only as far as running the business, but also hearing from farmers too.
Yeah, it seems like farmers are the ones that seem to take the most direct impact from government actions. We could talk tariffs, trade policy, those kind of things. But, it certainly affected the price of fertilizer, and it certainly affects the price that the farmers receive in this particular instance, for their grain. But we have lived through the ag economy has lived through things like this before, and we'll live through it again. It does provide challenges, but it also provides opportunities. Our goal is to service the growers in the best way possible, service the growers as they ask us to serve them. So we certainly do what we can to manage our risk, and hopefully we help the farmer also manage their risk by being there for them to provide the services and the services the services they need. There you go.
And Russell, I'm sure in your conversations with the co-ops that you have visited throughout 2025, you probably hear a lot of the same thing, even with the different types of co-ops, businesses that are out there too.
Yeah, there's so many of the challenges and issues for any businesses, let alone just our cooperatives across the state. Labor is the top one that comes to mind a lot. How are we going to retain, recruit, and how are we going to look for that next middle or upper level manager to take over someday down the road? When we look at some of our co-ops across the state, Doug not included, there's a lot of cooperative general managers out there that have some maturity on them and are ready to retire. So we're going to see a big change of leadership down the road. And so they're looking right now and trying to identify those people that could step right into that CEO or president or manager role for that cooperative. So that's, labor continues to be one of the issues. Water, of course, with, since we're farmer owned, producer owned, water is an issue across the state. And so that's also top of mind for a lot of them. And as Doug mentioned, probably the trade and that market access is probably also in the top 5, I would say. And
Doug, to Russell's point, the labor, trying to find that next generation to come in to fill the needs at the 4 locations of Jackson Farmers Co-op.
Yeah, it's a difficult industry to work in. We are a full service co-op. So during harvest, we are open long hours. Young people with a family, it's a difficult business to be in. During spray season, people are running from sun up to sundown. It takes a commitment, and it does take a special person to commit to working for, really any ag company.
Well, and especially this week with the weather the way it's been, it's probably been very busy there at all of your locations.
Yes, it's wonderful to see. We were a little slow getting started, as you know, Greg. We kind of caught some rain. Well, as the farmers locally know, caught some rains there early when we just got corn harvest underway. But this week has been wide open, and we have been as busy as we want to be. Yes.
Russell, as you continue to look at the future of the cooperatives across the state, it sounds like still, as always, very optimistic outlook.
Oh, definitely. And it's like Doug mentioned earlier, the cooperative model is a great model of business. And I think, as we look down the road, there's a lot of opportunities for people to look for the gaps in business to stay viable. So, when we think about business as usual, we have a lot of cooperatives across the state that are diversified. They're looking at what are the gaps that the other folks around them, whether it's competition or whatever, is not providing. And it goes back to what Doug said, providing that customer service. There's a lot of co-ops out there that are looking for the next thing. What's innovative? What's our niche market? What's a place that we can fit in and bring more value to our customers' products?
Because of the fact too that depending on where you're at across the state, agriculture is still very diverse across the state, from irrigated out in western Kansas, dry land, cattle, financial, electricity in the rural areas. There's always a need for co-ops across the state.
Definitely. I would, wholeheartedly agree with that statement.
Absolutely.
We're not going to go away from needing the cooperative models.
Doug, as you look to the future, as I asked Russell the same thing, I don't want you to release any business plan or business future, but at the same time, you have to feel good, even in years like this, or if you go clear back, say, to the 80s, to be able to continue that, as well as you mentioned earlier, agriculture and co-ops have weathered the storm throughout any of the crises that we have seen.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we're here for the grower and because of the grower. As far as Jackson Farmers goes, our board plans for the future, what we what we hope the grower would need in the future. I'm saying hope because, you know, we do capital improvements just like every other co-op. As I said, we're fully diversified. So we're in the midst of a feed mill expansion at our Holton facility, which we will be able to service our growers more efficiently. I'm not going to say necessarily better because our feed department has done a tremendous job since I've been there, but at least efficiencies, and we hope to improve on our service that way also.
And Russell, that for those who haven't seen, and if you were at the Kansas State Fair just a little under a month ago, all of the work that has been done on the Capper project, and just, you know, everything looks outstanding, and the work that is done through the work of the Kansas Cooperative Council and the member co-ops too.
Yeah, and we should need to add the Arthur Capper Center for Cooperative Education at Kansas State University. That's led by Dr. Brian Brigham there at K-State. So in partnership with them, and Doug was on the board throughout that whole process of remodeling and revitalizing that Arthur Capper building there at the Kansas State Fairgrounds. Future plans also might just add that, you know, each year we recognize a Hall of Fame recipient in the cooperative world, and that display is currently in the Pride of Kansas building. And so we're working with the Kansas State Fairgrounds to see about, all right, how can we move that out of there, give it a little more visuality, and move it over to the Capper building as well. So more things to come on that. It's a great facility. It's a great educational tool as well.
All right, gentlemen, we are out of time, but as always, it's great to be able to get updated on the Kansas cooperatives across the state as well. So Doug Biswell, Jackson Farmers Co-op, as always, appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Russell Plaschka, President and CEO of the Kansas Cooperative Council, appreciate you joining us this morning.
Always good to be here, Greg. Thank you.
This has been Ag Issues here on 580 WIBW, and stay with us when we come back. We'll get an update on the news headlines and a check of the weather forecast. That comes up next.